First love is like that. It comes quietly, unexpectedly, and changes you in ways you never see coming. It doesn't always last, but it leaves a mark that stays with you forever. Maya was 16, with dreams of the world beyond the town's borders and an innocence that only came with the hope of youth. She didn't know that today would be different. She had always been an observer, watching the world from her favorite spot beneath an old willow tree. With a book in her hand and thoughts in her head, she found solace in the stories that whisked her away. But this afternoon, the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of the river were overshadowed by something new, someone new. From across the field, she noticed him. He wasn't unfamiliar. Jake had been in her school for years, but in the way that time changes things, she now saw him differently. His silhouette was outlined by the setting sun, a casual smile on his face as he made his way toward her. His hands tucked in his pockets. Her heart fluttered in her chest, a sensation she hadn't felt before. "Hey," he said, his voice breaking the serene stillness. He kicked a small pebble with his shoe, a bit shy but trying not to show it. "Mind if I sit?" Maya nodded. Her voice caught somewhere between the breeze and the pounding of her heart. He settled beside her, though not too close, just enough to feel the warmth of his presence. They didn't talk much at first. It was the kind of quiet that feels comfortable, like the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what might happen next. "So," he finally said, leaning back on his hands and looking at the sky, "what's life like in those books of yours?" She smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Better than here, I guess. The people are braver. The story's more exciting, you know." "I don't know," Jake replied with a grin, his eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. "I think this place is kind of nice, especially on days like this." Maya didn't reply. Her heart beat louder, not because of the day, but because of him. There was something about the way he said it, something that made her feel like she was part of the reason this day was special. As the sun dipped lower, casting hues of pink and orange across the sky, Jake glanced at her and took a deep breath, as if preparing for something important. "You ever feel like you're waiting for something, but you don't know what it is?" Maya blinked, her chest tightening. She didn't know how to answer. Wasn't that what she had been doing all this time? Waiting. But for what? Or for whom? "Yeah," she whispered, her voice softer than the wind. "I think so." He turned to her, their eyes meeting for the first time in what felt like forever. There was a pause, a heartbeat of silence where everything else seemed to fade away. The river, the breeze, the distant chirp of crickets. It was just them, suspended in a moment neither fully understood, but both felt. "I think I've been waiting for you," Jake finally said, his words trembling with uncertainty, but also with hope. Maya's breath hitched, her mind racing as a rush of emotions flooded her heart. She didn't know what to say, but she didn't need to. The space between them shrank, and in that brief, tender moment, Jake leaned closer, gently pressing his lips against hers. It was soft, fleeting, but it was enough to make the world stop. When they pulled away, everything felt different. The air was charged, the colors more vibrant, the world more alive. This was love. It wasn't the epic, dramatic kind she had read about in her books, but something simpler, quieter. And yet, it was the most profound thing she had ever felt. They spent the rest of the evening talking about everything and nothing. His dreams of leaving Rivertown, her hopes of becoming a writer, their shared fear of what the future might bring. They laughed, whispered, and in those few hours, they built something they couldn't quite define, but felt deeply. As the stars appeared, they lay back on the grass, staring at the vast sky above. Jake reached over, his hand gently brushing against hers, before intertwining their fingers. It felt natural, like something that had been waiting to happen for years. "I don't know where life's going to take us," he murmured, "but I'm glad it brought me to you." Maya didn't reply, her heart too full for words. Instead, she squeezed his hand, hoping he understood everything she couldn't say. This was her first love. It wasn't perfect. It was fragile, uncertain, and a little scary. But it was also beautiful, in a way that only something new and pure could be. As the night deepened and the chill of the evening settled in, they reluctantly parted ways, promising to see each other again tomorrow. Maya walked home, her heart light, her thoughts heavy with everything that had just happened. And as she lay in bed that night staring up at her ceiling, she realized that she was no longer waiting. She had found what she had been searching for, even if just for a moment. First love is like that. It comes quietly, unexpectedly, and changes you in ways you never see coming. It doesn't always last, but it leaves a mark that stays with you forever.